Welcome back to this edition of Draft Utopia. This is episode 343, the return of Coburn on Talk Shoe. It is Thomas's returning show, and we had a lot of big news that happened in sports this week. We had the ALDS began yesterday. Jose Altuve hit 3 home runs for the Astros in a big win for them. Chris Sale only pitched 5 innings. Verlander went 6 innings, gave up 2 runs. Trevor Bauer pitched 5 1/3 innings without giving up a hit, and he went 6 1/3 before he got pulled against the for Andrew Miller. I think it was actually 7 2/3 innings. So he got the strikeout, and then they brought in Miller for a half an inning, and then they brought in Cody Allen to get the save. So it was the usual Miller-Allen rotation. And I know at 2 p.m. right now on FS1, the Red Sox are playing the Astros, so I can turn that game on, mute it, and get you guys updates for that game as it's happening. But those are the 2 big headlines. I'm not surprised that the Red Sox are trailing. Astros and Indians, these are the 2 teams I expected. And I love how at the MLB trade deadline, everyone said, the Red Sox or the Yankees, one of them is going to make a move. You're not going to see the Astros or the Indians in the ALCS. We're going to see a big market team. We're going to see a big market team. Like, that's what MLB Network's baseball experts were saying. And it was just sounded so cheesy and over the top that I literally had no words to express how awful those comments were, Ryan. And not awful by offensive. I mean awful as in how dead off they are with this. Because I think Cleveland and Houston have the 2 best teams in the AL this year. And maybe even in entire Major League Baseball. So I'm expecting both of those teams to win tonight. Pomeranz is facing Dallas Keuchel today on FS1. And Keuchel has a huge advantage in the pitching department. Former Indians ace CC Sabathia is going to start for the Yankees against their ace pitcher Corey Kluber. And Sabathia is going to have to steal one. Otherwise, Cleveland's got a chance to sweep this series in New York. And Corey Kluber, reigning Cy Young winner, playing phenomenal baseball. They didn't start him in Game 1, and they look like a very good team right now with a lot of the guys in their bullpen still fresh. Outside of Allen and Miller, a lot of the guys in their bullpen are fresh, and they've got a lot of options as to what they can do, who they can turn to. So Cleveland's got a lot of momentum right now. And any thoughts on this before we get to the NFL, Ryan? I'm calling back in. No.
Recorded live.
Okay, guys.
You are unmuted.
Okay, guys, I'm back, but like I was saying, I expect it to be Houston and Cleveland in the ALCS. Anything else would come as a huge shock to me. Any surprises by Game 1 with the Astros and Cleveland Indians winning, Ryan, before we get to the NFL?
I feel like I mentioned, like the Astros are going to continue to win. They're a powerhouse team. I mean, obviously the score last night kind of shows that, reflected that as well. Also, they're playing Boston right now in the 4th round. I'm curious, do you know what the score was to that game, Chris?
It was 8-2. Houston won the Boston game, and the Cleveland Indians won by a final score of 4-0 over the Yankees. So I still think it could be Houston, but at the same time, back in March, I said it would be the Indians over the Dodgers in the World Series. So that's the biggest reason why I'm going with the Cleveland Indians. But right now, if you bet on the Astros to win the World Series against the Dodgers, and you bet 100, 300, 400, that's a $800 loss at the very worst and a $2,100 payout. So that's a lot of money. But we're not here to encourage people to gamble. I'm just throwing it out there that there's a big line on the Astros, big payout. Cleveland is still the consensus favorite to come out of the AL, but do not be surprised if Houston makes that move because this pitching rotation, like I said on Sunday's podcast, it's deeper than I initially anticipated it would be. So that's the biggest reason why the Astros might do this, and I know that I know that being in the same division as the Astros is a killer for your athletics, Thomas. So we'll quickly get. And if you have any thoughts you want to add to this baseball conversation, we can, because I know the NL games start tonight too, with the Cubs facing the Nationals at 7, and then the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks at 10:30. So there's going to be baseball all day.
I don't think my A's will win, even if they get better next year and make the playoffs. I don't think we'll be winning the division for quite a while with how good these teams are. But it is baseball, and anything can happen. You can go from good one year to completely shitty the next year, so we will find out.
Yes, and I've just turned the game on. They're warming up.
I just turned the game on too.
Because it's like, it gives me something to do while we talk about this stuff. But let's focus on the next game, the Patriots-Dolphins game. This game, it looked like, the Buccaneers, Patriots-Buccaneers game in Tampa Bay. And this game was a tale of two kickers, as I like to put it. One kicker made all the field goals and executed, and the other kicker played like complete crap. Gostkowski, 4 for 4 in his field goals, really stepped up. McCourty had 11 solo tackles and a deflection that prevented a Cameron Brate touchdown. Brate still scored, but Brate could have had 2 touchdowns if McCourty hadn't been there to make that deflection. So, I mean, Tampa Bay just really didn't execute, and there were times where they outplayed the Patriots. They had these strong drives going. The Patriots had the Tom Brady fumble. They had a Brady interception. They looked very sloppy offensively, despite looking very sound defensively at times, too. And the Patriots need to pull it together. So if they're going to make any run at repeating, they've got to pull it together, because right now it's looking like that Chiefs-Steeler game in Week 6 might be what ends up deciding who gets home field in the AFC, rather than the Week 15 game between New England and Pittsburgh, which we initially anticipated would decide home field. Now, if the season ended today, my projected records, based on what's already happened, New England, Kansas City, and Pittsburgh would all be 13-3, and the Chiefs would get stuck in the wild card game while New England got home field. So New England's not out of it, but right now things look incredibly favorable for the Chiefs and the Steelers compared to the Patriots. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of football left to be played, but this was just a very sloppy win on New England's end.
Yeah, it was very sloppy.
You know, it was definitely sloppy, but I feel like you guys are forgetting to think about how short the week was for the Patriots. And even though they're a very good team, I feel like they need that time to be able to prepare and, you know, look at the game film and do what the Patriots do best. You know what I mean? Yes, the game was a little sloppy for Tom Brady, but in the end, though, the game was sloppy for the defense as well. They continued to struggle. When you allow Winston to be able to drive and look that well, I mean, obviously your defense isn't that great.
They did. Their defense played better, but also at the same time, they did allow another 300-yard passer.
Well, exactly. I mean, their defense played better to a point, but at the same time, it was still concerning when a team like the Buccaneers can still do what they did, like you said, with 300-plus yards, Thomas.
Yeah. What I was irritated with is both teams weren't running enough. Like, the Bucs were having success running the ball at times, and then they just went away from it.
You know, I feel like what in the end ultimately what decided the Buccaneers' fate was Winston had thrown some bad passes, but you also had guys like O.J. Howard at the end, the rookie tight end who ran around where he should actually.
That decision was dumb.
No, it was the right decision, but it came down to the rookie tight end just didn't run the route correctly.
Yeah.
I'm talking about some of the previous plays where it was like it seemed like he was overthrowing people. He was trying to make plays out of nothing, and I also felt like there was times where I felt like he should have scrambled instead of throwing the ball.
Yeah. Winston has the ability to run. I don't know why on that final play, there's 18 yards. Why didn't he go like 5 yards short of the end zone, catch it, and then try to run in? That would have been safer or smarter.
Because the Patriots, even though they lacked some of the key secondary traits you want, that still gives someone enough time to be able to tackle someone 5 yards out. So it's better just to risk it and throw it in the end zone.
They had someone else that had a better chance of catching the ball and getting in, though, than Howard, I thought. But that right tackle jumping false offsides after that 24-yard catch, that was a brain fart. That killed their drive. I think
I don't think it killed it, but I mean, it lacked a little bit of momentum. But I mean, at the same time, look at the point that they were at in the game, though, Thomas.
Yeah, but the 10-second runoff, that rule, I think that rule is just retarded. I mean, that hurts.
I won't disagree or agree, but at the same time, I understand where you're coming from. But at the same time, though, at that point in the game, I mean, you're almost saying if you don't take out 10 seconds, you're almost telling the offensive line it's okay to get a penalty to be able to try and draw off the defense to move forward. You know what I mean?
Not real. I understand it, but it's not really telling them that it's okay because they still lose yards on it. It's just, why punish them more? When they already lose yards, you got to punish them more by taking 10 seconds off the clock. I mean, isn't losing yards punishment enough?
I mean, to a point. I mean, I guess in my head I understand why they do it, because if that was the case, you could sit there and just try and drop the defense all the time.
Yeah. And in my head, it makes sense too. So.
All right.
Anyway, it wasn't the best game to watch, but Thursday games usually aren't. But it was all right. I love Tony Romo as a commentator, though. That guy is awesome. He doesn't feed us bullshit.
I felt like Tony what did good, but at the same time, I'm still waiting for him to get injured in the commentary booth.
No, he found his calling.
He'll break his collarbone as he bumps into the camera.
He'll get too excited and cheer and break his collarbone. No, but he really does show his knowledge of the game.
You know, I agree, but you know, I guess in the end, the Buccaneers are going to be a good team, but ultimately they're going to have to make sure that they work with Winston more as far as, hey, get more comfortable in the pocket, and they're really going to have to work more with the receivers as far as chemistry. You know, how about this? Why don't they go ahead and call a team meeting and be able to sit down? And I feel like once they do that, to be able to get everyone on the same page, that's how the Buccaneers are going to succeed in the NFC, because right now, in my opinion, basically it's the Atlanta Falcons are the top dog in the NFC, and then everyone else is kind of every other position is up for grabs almost. Besides the Buffalo, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting you bring up the Buccaneers and their receiver, because in the mock draft I'm working on from Josiah Ray, he has the Buccaneers taking a wide receiver, James Washington, out of Oklahoma State at 11. I don't think they'll be picking that high, but it's an interesting theory to speculate on, because Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson needed to do more in this game, and he didn't. Sure, you got Adam Humphries, you've got Chris Godwin out of Penn State, but you're not utilizing those receivers to their maximum capabilities, and you're trying to go with that 3 tight end set with Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard, Luke Stalker. They went away from that. That worked against the Giants. They sort of went away from that against the Patriots. So with all these weapons, there's really no excuse to be underperforming this badly. So are they going to add another one in the draft? It's definitely a question that raises some intrigue.
Chris, that's what I said about my Dolphins.
All right.
But anyway, hold on. I think I know what you said with mock James Washington there, because Sean Jackson's old now, not what he used to be.
Yeah, that's true. That's another reason why he mocked him there.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously he hasn't had the same type of productivity that he's had since his younger days. I mean, of course he's going to sit there and have to be replaced.
Yeah.
I think we'll still see good productivity out of him, because, I mean, he's still going to be a factor.
Yeah. Moving on.
All right. Yeah, move forward.
All right. Well, I messaged both Tracy and Oren, who was at our NFL draft special last year. Oren might call in. We'll see what happens. But right now, we're going to give you the open floor, Thomas. I know you want to talk about the Oregon State game versus the USC Trojans tomorrow. What do you think the Beavers have to do to win besides giving Ryan Nall the damn ball, like Keyshawn Johnson says?
You know, it's going to take an act of God to win that game. My Beavers are absolutely freaking pathetic this year. I really can't. I really still haven't figured out what the hell is going on, but it is really, really irritating. These guys need to get their heads out of their asses and start playing some real football. We still have a chance to get a bowl game, but if we keep playing the way we've been playing, it's not going to look good. The Washington game, despite what the scoreboard said, the first half they actually played better, but the freaking refs were cheating us the entire time. But of course, they didn't give Ryan all the football.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson played NC State last night, and in that game, Lamar went 26 for 47, 354 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and he had a QB rating of 64.6%. He also had 73 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, but you can tell that Lamar is carrying this offense, and while his completion percentage has dropped to 62.2 after being at such a high level to begin the year, you can tell that it's him, it's 2 other receivers that look like day 2 picks, and the rest of this offense is not even draftable at this point. And I don't think he's in the conversation to be QB1 or QB2, even QB3 for that matter, but he's a first-round pick. Someone's going to take him in the top 20 to top 30 picks, and he's going to bring something to the table. Could he be a steal? Maybe. Time will tell. But this NC State defense beat Florida State. They beat Louisville now, and they're now 3-0 in conference play in the ACC. So the Clemson-NC State game is definitely going to decide who wins the Atlantic Division in the ACC.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This was Lamar's worst game as a passer, but one of his better games as a rusher.
Yeah. He's really only got Reggie Bonifant.
Yeah. Any thoughts on these games, Ryan, before we get to some of our next, before we preview some of these college football games? We went over...
Hold on. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay. Honestly, I'm looking forward to it. I think Thomas's team is actually going to do quite well. So, Thomas, kudos to you. I'm looking forward to it. So, I really don't have a lot to say, though.
But what about Lamar Jackson versus NC State last night? He had another bad game, and it's at the point where he's probably going to be the 4th or 5th QB taken.
Now, do you think he had a bad game because of the quarterback play or because of the way his receivers played and some of the miscommunication?
He did well on some throws, but he also dealt with a lot of drop passes, and most people still like Darnold better than him, and I know it kind of makes you want to go off on a tangent, but it's like, I don't think Darnold's necessarily going to be good, but most people still have him ranked ahead of Lamar at this point, so we'll see what happens with Lamar. But this is 2 losses now for Louisville, and they're not playing like a top 25 team, so scouts are going to raise even more questions. They're going to dig even more layers in this game.
Of course they're not playing like a 25 team, but at the same time, as the quarterback, you can only do so much.
That's true.
Let me say this real quick. Let me add this in there. This is about the USC game. If we can cause pressure, which is something we haven't really done well this year, Sam Darnold, we might have a chance because Sam Darnold hasn't been playing well. I mean, he's been streaky on and off. And, yeah. But we have one of the worst defenses in college football right now when we shouldn't. So I don't think we're going to win another game, but if we do, hopefully it starts here.
Yeah, and I don't like how ESPN hasn't listed the cable network that some of these games are on. They haven't even listed the cable network that their games they're on. So it's like, how are we supposed to know what games you're televising if you don't list what channels the games are going to be on? You're supposed to be the worldwide leader in sports. It's like, make this more enjoyable for the users and the people who want to be part of the experience as well, because the Florida State-Miami game was originally going to be an 8 p.m. game, but it got flexed to 3:30. Alabama, Texas A&M, I think that's on ESPN. I guess Oregon, USC is either Pac-12 or FS1. Probably Pac-12. All the AL games are on FS1 or MLB Network. So that means that game would be on the FS1 maybe, or it's really too early to say. But
I definitely got to watch A&M Bama game. Hopefully Christian Kirk can do well.
I agree. I hope he has a big game as well. Wake Forest and Clemson, that game's at noon tomorrow. I don't know what channel that's on, but I don't think there's going to be many big implications in that. Hyatt versus Ejiofor could be a fun matchup, but we'll get to see those players on limited downs. You got Iowa State versus Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield's playing another defense that he should carve. But can Lazard have a big game versus Jordan Thomas to salvage his stock at this point? That's going to be a big game. Penn State plays Northwestern in Northwestern. Two safeties, Godwin Igwebuike and Marcus Allen are playing in that game. Georgia plays Vanderbilt at noon. I think Nick Chubb should have a big game. I don't think that's as watchable as some of the other games. Ole Miss plays Auburn at noon. Temple plays East Carolina. Tulsa plays Tulane. Iowa plays Illinois.
Chris, does Bryce Love go off again?
Bryce Webb. Bryce Love.
Yeah.
For Stanford.
Yeah. The guy who's leading the country in rushing yards right now.
Yeah, there's.
After 5 games.
Yeah, Josiah has him in the first round of my 2018 NFL mock draft, or his 2018 NFL mock draft. They play an unbeaten Utah Utes team in Utah against Lotelo Tulele, a very tough Utah defense. Darren Carrington's on that Utah team as well, and we loved his tape at the beginning of the year, but we were also worried about some of these other things. So we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, that should be tough for him. But Stanford's line is back to what it was 2 years ago. So.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I'm looking at these noon games, and outside of Clemson, Wake Forest, and Iowa State, Oklahoma, there really isn't a lot that excites me as far as afternoon games go. I know the game Thomas might be glued into early at noon, 9 a.m. his time if he's up that early, will be Texas Tech versus Kansas. That's going to be an early game.
I'll be at work. Damn it, I'll be at work.
Duke plays Virginia.
I was hoping Texas Tech would beat Oklahoma State last week, but they didn't.
Yeah. Duke plays Virginia in Charlottesville, so that, I don't know if that has much substance. Pitt plays Syracuse at 12:30. 2 p.m. we get in Athens, Ohio. We get Central Michigan versus the Ohio Bobcats. Both of those teams have great secondaries. Central Michigan is Amari Coleman at corner. Ohio has Javon Hagan, who we had on this podcast. So both of those teams have really good secondaries. I'm expecting a defensive contest. Miami, Ohio faces Bowling Green. Really just going through the schedule here. TCU face West Virginia. I don't see much substance in that, but if you're back by 3:30 from your work schedule, you might get to watch that game. So.
Yeah, I usually get off at noon, so.
Interesting. Miami plays Florida State, Notre Dame, North Carolina, LSU, Florida. So a lot of the good games are 3:30 games. That's what I'm seeing so far based on the schedule.
LSU is garbage.
Yeah, LSU, Florida's unbeaten in the SEC, and they're playing in the swamp. I mean,
LSU is an absolute dumpster fire.
Florida lost this home game last year, and they had to go to LSU after the hurricane, so that hurt them. Western Michigan plays Buffalo in Buffalo. Maryland, Ohio State at 4 p.m. Oregon State faces USC in the game we already discussed. 7 p.m. we get SMU and Cortland Sutton facing the Houston Cougars. Both those teams have one loss, and Sutton has really struggled these past few games. Trey Quinn, not Sutton, leads that team in receiving yards. So Sutton's really moved down on a lot of boards as a result. Kansas State and Texas. Holton Hill, Texas cornerback / safety, is going to be in that game. I think the main headline game this week, though, is Alabama, Texas A&M. And I feel like the media is downplaying this game to an extent because of Michigan State, Michigan, that being a huge rivalry. The media is hyping that game up, and they're downplaying the Kirk versus Alabama game. And I think that's a big mistake by the media, at least.
They need, they're going to need to pass more if they want to win this game. Alabama's run defense is too tough. I know they love to run this year, but they're going to need to Kellen Mond is definitely going to need to pass more.
Yeah, I don't think Tanner Lee can pull the upset on Wisconsin. I know Nebraska is 2-0 in the Big Ten. They've responded well since that hiccup against Northern Illinois. But I don't think they'll respond against Wisconsin. I think that would be a tough game for them to win. Justin Herbert's injured, so I look for Luke Falk in Washington State to be 6-0 after this weekend. Central Florida's now in the top 25. They play Cincinnati. That should be a win. Arizona faces Colorado, which could have some intrigue. But overall, this is a very forgettable week in terms of college football schedules with a few good matchups, a few headline matchups. But overall, nothing special like we've seen the first few weeks. And usually we get the worst week of the season in the first or second week. This week, there are a few games in terms of depth and substance, but nothing special or over the top. I honestly thought Louisville versus NC State could have been the game of the week, but they flexed that to a Thursday night. And with the Indians and the Patriots playing, I just didn't have the time to tune in to watch it.
Yeah. Wyoming and Josh Allen play a conference game this week.
Yeah, Josh Allen and Wyoming, they do play a conference game. I'll look that up because I'm looking at the radar here, and Wyoming, I don't see Wyoming on this schedule for some reason.
Oh, they have a bye week this week. Never mind.
Yeah.
But next week they open up conference play, I think.
Yeah. Any thoughts on these college football games, Ryan? Anything intriguing? Because we talked about the NFL yesterday. We made our picks on the show.
I mean, honestly, like you said, this week in college football is just kind of a forgettable week. It's nothing that's too over the top. I mean, like last night, I think it was last night, is week 6, you had Louisville and NC State, the game you're talking about with Lamar Jackson. I mean, honestly, it was kind of expected that maybe Louisville might lose because it was inside NC State, and that game was kind of interesting, but then you also have games like Iowa State, Oklahoma, all those other ones. I mean, there's nothing really too much that stands out.
The Astros have just gotten 2 runs off of Drew Pomeranz with 2 outs in the bottom of the first inning. I'm not sure if it's a home run or what that is, but I think that was Correa. He's high-fiving his teammates. I think Correa blasted a 2-run home run because the bases are cleared, and there was a guy on base.
I didn't see it.
All right. Well, Justin Fields, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in high school football, is announcing his college commitment today. And the sad part is that story is more interesting than any of the games in college football this weekend, which kind of sucks.
I'm actually interested in quite a few games, mostly because of college football games, mostly because of the players.
Wow. Justin Fields decided to go to Georgia. They've already got Jacob Eason and Jake Fromm, and now they land Justin Fields.
That was a dumb decision.
He might not even get to play until his senior year now. And now Eason's going to transfer.
I don't think Easton's going to transfer.
But they're not going to play him as much. They're going to keep Fromm in the lineup as long as they're winning. And this creates a difficult quarterback situation for Georgia with 3 5-star QBs on the table.
Easton's so much better. He is the starter for a reason.
I like Eason, but at the same time, Fromm has not lost a game for Georgia yet, and he's played phenomenal so far as a true freshman.
True.
So I feel like they're going to stick with Fromm until, unless this freshman for Georgia loses a game, because they're doing things right now. The Georgia Bulldogs are doing things, and they play Vanderbilt. They're 5-0. Nick Chubb's carrying this team. I mean, Georgia's set at quarterback for the next few years. So it feels like we're going to see Georgia and Alabama. And I think with all the stability Georgia's landed, they've got the number 1 running back in this class too, Zamir White. So they've got the number 1 running back. They've got the number 3 quarterback on my rankings. I know ESPN says Fields is the number 1 player in their rankings, but Fields has had some bad games with some sloppy accuracy, and I think Jurkovec and Trevor Lawrence are both better than Justin Fields. But I also know for a fact that when the 2021 or 2020 NFL draft comes, Ken's going to point out how Justin Fields should be the top QB drafted.
I actually did see one game that I'm very curious about, I guess you could say.
What game was that?
LSU at Florida. Do you think LSU can upset Florida, Chris?
No, I don't. They're absolutely horsecock garbage.
They're terrible this year, and they haven't done well. I mean, Arden Key hasn't really stepped up to the plate yet. Florida is just dominating. I think the other game that raises my curiosity level is also in the SEC, and that's Alabama versus Texas A&M in the 12th man.
Me too.
All right, yeah, I can agree with you on that. I mean, you have Alabama, of course, year in and year out, continue to be a powerhouse, and then Texas A&M, of course, that program's always going to be phenomenal with coaching, and go Aggies, by the way. So definitely curious to see if they win.
Yeah, Christian Kirk is one of these players that I'm curious to see how he performs in this situation against Alabama, against the tested secondary.
Now, how do you feel? How Thomas and Chris? This question is for both of you. How do you feel about this statement? I think that one of the most fundamental games that you could watch this weekend is going to be between Stanford at Utah.
I agree with that.
That'll definitely be a good game.
Wait. And I mean that as a fan watching football. If I was sitting there trying to teach my kid, hey, this is how you should play the game as far as fundamentals and plays and stuff like that, how do you guys feel?
Oh, yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, Stanford's as traditional powerhouse run team as you can get. And Utah, well, they always, year in, year out in the Pac-12, they usually have one of the best defenses in a conference that doesn't play much defense. So I think it's traditional fundamental defense versus traditional fundamental offense in that. So,
wow. College Game Day is not going to be at Michigan, even though that's the headline game on ESPN. College Game Day is going to be at TCU for the West Virginia-TCU game. Yes, they should. I bet the SEC Game Day, because they have SEC Game Day too. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
That's my next question for you then is, do you think Tyler Huntley has more than 100 yards?
Yeah, Stanford's defense isn't up to par. They still have great players in Joey Alfieri and their secondary, but yeah, he'll have more than 100 yards.
Well, I'm curious. I think the matchup in this game that intrigues me the most is Darren Carrington versus these Stanford corners, because we talked about these Stanford corners against Darnold, and he picked them apart. These corners made Rosen struggle until one got ejected from targeting and the other got injured. that's when Rosen had his chance to pick things apart, and he still threw interceptions. So that's why some people still have Darnold at 1, but very hesitantly. And we'll see what happens with Utah, though. Tyler Huntley faces a very difficult Stanford secondary, and Carrington. This game is Utah's biggest game, too, since they played Jared Goff and Cal 3 years ago, back in 2015. This is their biggest game in 2 years, which says a lot, because that Utah team was also unbeaten when they faced Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it should definitely be a good game.
I think that's definitely one of the top 5 games of the week.
Yep. Bryce Love, I mean, he's come in. I don't know about you guys, but I've been talking nothing but good things for Bryce Love since his freshman year. And I knew that he would be this good. I didn't quite think he would lead the nation in running and have 1,000 yards in 5 games, but I knew he would be this good. He's basically me, but faster.
So I have a good question then. Do you guys think that the love for the Stanford Cardinals, do you think he has more, or I mean, I should say Bryce Love, do you think he has more than 100 yards rushing against Utah?
He's had 100 yards rushing 3 games this year, and then a 200-yarder, and then a 300-yarder.
I'm going to say Utah holds him to 75 rushing yards, but he gets at least 30 to 40 receiving yards, gets 100 all-purpose yards. I just have a good feeling about Utah's defensive line with Lowell Lotulelei, the brother of Star Lotulelei in his senior year. I just have a very good feeling about Utah this weekend, but I do think he'll get 100 all-purpose yards. Will he get 100 rushing yards? No, but he'll get a touchdown or 2, and he'll make an impact in this game.
Yeah, I think they make Love. I think they put Love in check. They don't stop him, but they slow him down a bit this week in rushing. But also, at the same time,
the reason I'm asking though is if you look at his stats, though, I mean, he has 180, 160, and 184 in some good games, but really the only impressive defense he faced was at USC. But are they as fundamentally sound as what Utah is? So I got to ask, I mean, does he actually get slowed down finally? Because right now, to me, he's starting to rise in my ranks in my running backs.
I think he gets slowed down, but not too much to where it will impact him, especially in this game. But Stanford's offensive line, like I said earlier, is back up to par where it was in 2015, where McCaffrey had that record-breaking, phenomenal year. So it's going to be a battle of who wins in the trenches. I know that Love has already broken McCaffrey's all-purpose yardage record in the season, or in a game, which is last
week. So with Utah, I have a question for both Thomas and Chris. Do you think that Darren Carrington gets more than 100 yards receiving? No? Nope. Really? Why? So you think Stanford's secondary can hold him back?
Yep, Elijah Holder and that other corner they have, and then their nickel corner, whose name I forget. They're all good. I think they'll hold him in check.
I think that he has at least 100 yards receiving, but I don't think he has any touchdowns.
I think he goes 3 for 80, 0 touchdowns.
All right.
And he drops like 15 passes.
Yeah. 15 passes, really, Thomas?
Yeah, what's trending on Twitter right now is that AOL Instant Messenger is officially going to be gone on December 15th.
But what?
AOL Instant Messenger, it'll officially be no longer discontinued on December 15th after 20 years.
What's the AOL Messenger?
AOL Instant Messenger, it's that chat room where you could just type in stuff on AOL. It was really popular back in the 90s. And they posted an Al Gore, "You're welcome, internet" gif.
All right. So I have another college football related question since you guys are a little bit more knowledgeable in the game than I am, obviously. Do you think Clayton Thorson out of the Northwestern Wildcats against Penn State this weekend will have more than 250 passing yards with a better than 65 completion percentage?
Nope.
No, he throws a lot of interceptions. He's an extremely reckless decision maker. Absolutely not.
Amen, Chris.
Now, that being said, plus or minus 3 turnovers for him this weekend against the Penn State secondary.
Plus.
I'm going to say that's a push because I think he's going to have exactly 3 turnovers in terms of interceptions. I think he's going to have 3 interceptions. If you count a fumble as well, then I'll go over.
All right, that's fair enough. Let's see here, I'm just kind of like browsing through some of the games that are really kind of like catching my eye. Like one that I think is going to be a really good one to watch as far as energy goes is I feel like the Ole Miss at the Auburn Tigers is going to be a good game.
And Ole Miss got blown out last week, so.
Well, and that's kind of what I was going to get at, though, Thomas, was with Ole Miss being blown out last week, they're going on the road this week against the Auburn Tigers. Do you think that they get blown out again in the secondary, or I should say on the defense in general? Do you think that the Auburn quarterback Stidham has more or less than 300 yards?
I don't think Ole Miss gets blown out this week, but as far as the defense, I think Stidham could have over 300 yards again.
You know, I'll actually say that this week, I think that the Auburn Tigers are probably going to have one of the higher passing games.
Probably.
Yeah, and that thing was a that Correa home run was what gave the Astros a 2-0 lead, just in case anyone was curious. So I was looking that up earlier. That's what.
I got a question for both of you guys. What college game this week, offensively, do you think will be the most explosive game?
Like as far as like the highest scoring between the two teams, or
like highest scoring, or just like most explosive plays, basically, just like who has the most explosive, powerful offenses.
I'm going to go out with an independent conference game. I'm going to go Air Force versus Navy. I'm going to go on the deep end here and say Annapolis, Maryland has the highest scoring game this weekend, where both of these teams, I'm thinking we'll either see something like 41-39 or maybe 50-49, or maybe even these teams touch the 50s, 60s. I got a good feeling about Air Force versus Navy being a shootout this weekend.
That will definitely be good. I love Navy's quarterback, Zach Abey, and I told you that he's really underlooked as a passer because they don't throw much. And of course, I like Timothy McVeigh, Air Force's running back. That's a good one, but that's not my choice.
Arian Worthman has more passing yards through the ground than AB. Both of these teams run spread offenses. I think it's going to be a shootout. What game were you thinking is going to be a shootout, Thomas?
I was going to ask Ryan first.
I think that the Miami and the Florida State game.
I love that running back Florida State has. Not their starter, but a guy that came out with Najee Harris that was the number 1 running back, Cam Akers.
Yeah,
I think he's better than Harris, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was a 5-star recruit in high school, and he should be starting.
Yeah.
He was all right. I'll tell you guys what. I'm going to be so exact on this. I think the spread for the Florida State and the Miami game is going to be 65 points.
So this is my pick, Chris. I'm going to kind of go off the deep end like you too. I'm going to say Tulsa and Tulane.
Ooh, interesting.
Tulane, they run an option like Navy and Air Force and all those guys. It's different, just like New Mexico's. New Mexico, they're always going to have an explosive game with their pistol option offense. I don't know who they're playing, but I'm not going to say that one. But I'm saying Tulsa and Tulane, because Tulane had Howard option offense with Sam, whatever his name is, their running back, Sam Beatty. That dude's a beast. And then Tulsa, yeah, they're kind of struggling right now with their record being 1-3 or 1-4. But they still have an explosive as hell offense like they do every year. So I think that's going to be really explosive. I think both teams are going to get up to like the 50 or 60 point mark, and then it's going to be nothing but explosive plays.
I'm going to say this. I also think that the next game that's going to be an explosive game as well is going to be between LSU and Florida.
With how bad LSU's offense is playing, I doubt they even get over 21 points.
The only reason I say that is because it's the SEC, and I feel like they always play each other to the point to where each team's going to score probably, I would say the spread on this game is going to be at least 60.
We'll see, but I doubt that LSU even gets over the 21 point mark.
On that, I will bet you a top
or at least 28.
There you go. Okay, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Yep. Moving on.
All right. Who do you guys think that the most defensive game of the week is going to be?
Probably Alabama, Texas A&M.
I'm actually going to say Wake Forest, Clemson.
Or that one. Yeah, that one's a good one, too. What do you think is going to be the most lopsided game? Okay, never mind. Wrong word. What game is going to be the most just ugly game to watch? Like turnovers from both sides everywhere. Nobody knows how to play. It's just going to be a fumble. It's just going to be a god-awful, shitty mess of a game.
I'm going to say, dude, there's a couple of teams or a couple of games that looks like it could be that way, but I'll say the sloppiest game of the week is going to be between. There's some god-awful games on here. I'll say it's going to be between Hawaii and Nevada.
Hawaii's actually pretty decent this year, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Nevada. But yeah, that could be for sure. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I'm thinking the sloppiest game is going to be. I don't know what the sloppiest game is going to be. I'm going to say it's the Virginia Tech Boston College game. I think one of those teams just lets us down. Maybe it'll be Notre Dame, North Carolina. Yeah, I'll go San Diego State, UNLV. I think UNLV could. I honestly have no idea what the sloppiest game is going to be. I'm just throwing guesses out there.
Yeah, for Boston College, I think Harold Landry is in the wrong position.
Yeah, I'm actually looking up some of the FBS games right now on the FCS games for 1A. I'm actually looking up some of those games right now to see if there's any exciting matchups right now.
Who does Eastern Washington play? That's what I want to know. For my sloppiest game of the week, I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to say USC and Oregon State. I mean, let's face it, USC's pretty good, but they have been back and forth each week. They've played good, they've played bad, they've played good, they've played bad, they've played good, they've played bad. And Oregon State just played bad every game. So I think that would be a pretty sloppy game.
Yeah, Eastern Washington is 3-2. They play UC Davis this weekend. South Dakota State hosts Southern Illinois. I think the only FCS game featuring unbeaten teams this weekend is Yale versus Dartmouth. Those are the only unbeatens in the FCS playing each other this weekend. So, yeah, it's pretty bad in both the FCS and the FBS this weekend.
Dang.
Those are the only 0-loss teams playing each other this weekend, and it's at Dartmouth, so I haven't really looked too much into prospects. I did watch some cornerbacks on Yale that Tony told me about, but I'm not sure if they can hold it for 60 minutes when it comes to covering effectively. I only watched the first quarter of the Yale-Harvard game last year.
Yeah. What about the Sun Belt Conference? Any notable games?
Eastern Washington plays UC Davis. Sun Belt Conference. Sun Belt's FCS.
I said Sun Belt Conference, not
Sun Belt's FBS, I think. Yeah.
What'd you say?
I think Sun Belt's FBS or FBS.
No, it's
yeah.
not. No, it's not.
It's not.
Sun Belt's.
Yeah, Sun
Belt's
the Sun Belt's FBS. Wait, Sun Belt is FBS for football because Troy, Appalachian State are in the FBS. It's a small school conference, but it's FBS. And I like Troy in that division big time. After their road win over LSU, they are the team to beat, and they're showing no mercy. In fact, they went into Death Valley and got a win over LSU without Antonio Garcia speaks volumes. So, Troy is definitely the team to beat in that conference.
Yeah, Troy's going back to their roots where they fought the Greeks, and they're just destroying everybody.
DeMarcus Ware? Yeah, they're going back to their roots.
The Troy Trojans. The Troy Trojan condoms.
The Trojan men.
I think that the team that actually has one of the harder games this week for the Sun Belt Conference is Appalachian State when they're taking on the New Mexico State Lobos.
New Mexico State Aggies, you mean? Yeah. New Mexico State, they beat New Mexico again for like the third straight year. It was the Rio Grande rivalry. New Mexico State won again for like the third straight year. Or second. I'm not sure. But, they're always tough.
Devin Davis, the guy we had on a few weeks ago. Texas San Antonio's game against Houston got canceled due to the Hurricane Harvey, and they're still unbeaten. They play Southern Miss this weekend. I like Texas San Antonio. I think their defense steps up again, and they stop Southern Mississippi.
Yeah. I like Southern Miss's quarterbacks.
I know we've just gone off the deep end talking about some of the college football games, but we made our NFL picks on yesterday's show, and unless Thomas wants to pick some of the games before we wrap things up, basically the only thing to do is to go over college games today.
Pick some of the NFL games? Okay. Buffalo. I got Buffalo beating Cincinnati. I think Cleveland beats the Jets. They're bound for a win. Carolina, Detroit. For my picks, I chose Carolina to win, but I think Detroit can pull off the upset. So that's going to be my upset of the week. Indianapolis at San Francisco. I choose the Colts. Tennessee at Miami. I think Tennessee will win. The offense is playing like pure trash right now, and I'm very, 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 with an extra V, disappointed. LA Chargers and New York Giants. That's a battle of garbage teams, but I think the Giants pull it off. Arizona at Philadelphia. Now that'll be an interesting game defensively. Both have stout defenses. Arizona's offense kind of sucks. Philadelphia has a good offense, but I think Philadelphia gets the W. I love Carson Wentz, but it should be good defensively. Pittsburgh and Jacksonville. At this point, I don't know. Jacksonville should not have lost to the Jets, and they've been off and on inconsistent this season. I think Pittsburgh gets the win. Seattle at LA Rams. The Rams have surprised the shit out of me. I don't know about you guys, but they've been playing really good football. I think they beat Seattle because just look at their history. Seattle never plays good against the Rams.
Especially when the Rams are at home.
What?
The Rams usually beat Seattle at home, too, based off historical data.
Yep. So, Baltimore and Oakland. I choose Baltimore. Oakland doesn't have Derek Carr playing, and their team's a bunch of pieces of poop, so screw them. Green Bay at Dallas. I got Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is that magic man against a weak secondary, weak defense. Rodgers is playing some really good football right now, so I look to him to carve up Dallas. Kansas City, Houston. Now that's probably going to be the game of the week, to be honest. I think Kansas City is the best team in the league right now. Houston, Deshaun Watson's he's been getting better each week. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup, defensively also. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was interesting offensively. I think Kansas City takes it, but it's going to be a close game. And then Minnesota, Chicago. I'm interested in seeing Trubisky's first start. Minnesota is severely depleted right now at quarterback and running back, but I still have faith in their defense to be top notch, and so I chose Minnesota.
Yeah, I went with the Bears. If you can listen to yesterday's podcast to hear all of Ryan's picks, my picks. We've got 3 minutes on the show to talk about anything else. I know my Dallas Stars play the Vegas Golden Knights tonight at American Airlines Center in the NHL, and that's going to be a game I'm going to try to get access to. If I don't get access to it on TV or NHL Network or whatever, I'll just tune in through my phone and I'll get updates for that game. But I know that's a big game as well, and I'll probably follow all of that after the Cleveland game ends tonight, because I'm sort of expecting both I'm expecting Houston and Cleveland to sweep outright their opponents now, because I just think they're both that much better than the Red Sox and Yankees. I mean, it's just, there's no need to sugarcoat it.
Yeah. And like I told you before, Indians are my second team, so I got a team to cheer for, so.
Yeah. We're both cheering for the Indians this year.
Yep.
Yeah, and if anybody beats the Indians before the World Series, I'm automatically cheering against that team in the World Series. I hate the Dodgers. I've always hated the Dodgers, but I will root for them if the Astros make it out of the AL. Sorry, I have to.
Yeah.
I can't root for anybody that beats the Indians.
Yep. I was going to say something, and then I completely lost what I was going to say.
What were you going to say, Thomas?
What?
What were you going to say, Thomas?
I was going to say something about it was college football again, but then I completely just forgot what it was. Oh.
I mean, there's going to be some good college football games this weekend for sure.
Yeah. So I guess just real quick, I do have just a final thought. I think that one of the most perplexing matchups for the MLB playoffs is going to be between the Chicago Cubs and the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, I have the Nationals in 5 games. I broke this down on the show. I have the Cubs in 5. Joey's got the Cubs in 5. You and Emily both have the Nationals in 5, but I think it's going to go to 5 games. I think that.
I just want to see Bryce Harper rage at someone again.
I think the Dodgers are just going to win the NL outright. Like, they're the only team with a completely healthy pitching rotation, and they have the most time to rest. I think that gives them an unfair advantage over their competition right now.
Hey, Chris, I'll tell you what. I'll go out on a limb. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to say upset alert. I'm going to say that the Arizona Diamondbacks might actually end up. I'm actually going to reverse kind of some of the things I said about the Dodgers, because, yes, they did look pretty invincible about 2 months ago, but now I'm actually going to change my mind and say that I think the Arizona Diamondbacks will pull out the upset and possibly take it and win it in Game 7.
there's no Game 7 in the DS. It's best 3 out of 5.
What the hell happened to your Rockies, Ryan?
That's my bad. I was looking at something else.
And with the Arizona series being best 3 out of 5, I think the Dodgers win it because the Diamondbacks used their best starting pitcher outside of Greinke against the Rockies, and that really weakens their starting rotation as well as their bullpen. So I think the Dodgers have a huge advantage in that regard. I would not be surprised if they swept the Diamondbacks, and then you've got the Cubs-Nationals is really the only series I see going to 4 or 5 games for that matter.
So you really think that the Dodgers are going to be able to take it and just kind of do what the Dodgers were supposed to do?
Yeah, I see the Dodgers doing to the Diamondbacks what the Astros are doing to the Red Sox, what the Indians are doing to the Yankees.
I'll tell you what. I'll go. Hazelbaker's not hurt, is he?
Who?
Hazelbaker for the Diamondbacks.
I don't think he's hurt, but I'm looking at the pitching matchups. I don't really take batters into account during the postseason. I look at who has the best overall pitching matchup, and I use that as my formula for handicapping and picking the games. So I like the Indians. I like the Astros. They're 5 deep. The Dodgers are 5 deep. Everybody else is just lucky to be where they're at, and I just don't see much to work with.
Well, the reason I say that, and I kind of started to back my words, is based on kind of what I've seen, is Jeremy Hazelbaker is going to be the key difference maker, and this is what I was going to kind of get at, Chris, is I wanted to make sure he's healthy, because it looks like he is. I don't see anything as far as injury report goes. I'm going to say that he bats at least a 350 average in this series.
Hazelbaker, yeah, Jeremy Hazelbaker. He's on the Diamondbacks. He is he's 30 years old. He batted .346 against the Royals on October 1st. He's an outfielder, so yeah, he has some tools. So we'll see what happens, because he's ended the year on a high note, batting over 300, really playing at a high level. But I take pitching. I look at pitching way more than I look at batting. And I know the Nationals have not announced a Game 2 starter yet. For tomorrow's game, the Cubs are starting Lester tomorrow, and they're going to start Kyle Hendricks tonight on the mound versus Strasburg. So with the Nationals not having Scherzer, they haven't really decided their starter yet. I just feel like the Dodgers.
That's what I say.
Chris, I guess my argument with the Diamondbacks, and that's why I said my upset alert, is the Dodgers have lost the past 20 games, over 20 games.
Yeah, the Dodgers didn't end the year on a high note, but they still had the MLB's best record, and I feel like it's a trap. Because I feel like picking against the Dodgers is a trap. It's what Vegas wants you to do. They want you to pick the team with more momentum over the team who has been more consistent throughout the regular season.
All right, I guess we will find out.
We'll find out.
I'm going to go ahead and bet a taco for that.
All right, sounds good. NLDS is on TBS tonight with both games. The Indians game is going to be on FS1, and then you've got the Red Sox-Astros game. Indians game is going to be on MLB Network. This game's on FS1. And then you've got the other 2 games, which are going to be on TBS tonight. I might order some pizza. I might have to. I think the Indians will win. We'll see. It's going to be a fun baseball playoffs regardless. And the new FS1 team with Keith Hernandez, Alex Rodriguez, and David Ortiz just looks awesome, even though Pete Rose isn't there anymore for unfortunate reasons. But, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I wish more people would respect Pete Rose. I've always liked him, to be honest. I feel like he just got himself a bad name and was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yep. So we've got a lot of baseball coming up this weekend. 2 NL games tomorrow. All 4 games for the ALDS and NLDS are on today. And then back on the Sunday, Game 3 of the ALDS games. And those will shift to Fenway Park and Yankee Stadium. They'll be on FS1, and I did find out that Joe Buck will be at the Cowboys game on Sunday. So,
Oh God, no!
I was hoping he'd call Aaron Rodgers. I was hoping he'd call Aaron Judge Aaron Rodgers during the Indians game because I thought that'd be really funny. But I guess he must have heard us, and then he decided, well, I'm gonna go to the I'm just gonna go to Dallas and commentate on the Aaron Rodgers game to avoid that hiccup. But we'll see.
I actually don't hate Joe Buck that bad.
But everyone would tear him a new one if he did that. If he went to the Yankees-Indians game and called Aaron Judge Aaron Rodgers, everyone would tear Buck a new one for that.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, I bet you he ends up saying Aaron Rodgers' name at least twice on that.
Well, we'll see.
Hey, James Harden is at the Astros game.
He is. He's at the Astros game. I hope Chris Paul calls him during the Astros game like he does in the Xbox commercial. That would be great.
That would be hilarious.
For so many reasons, that would be hilarious.
I didn't know Harden was a baseball fan.
Well, he wants to see if Keichel's beard is as ridiculous as his.
What?
He wants to see if Keichel's beard can go head-to-head with his beard. It's a beard contest.
Oh, yeah. I know. I was just like, what? She's like, I'm only here for this game because I got to see if his beard is as good as mine.
Yeah, the Astros are selling the playoff beards. Yeah, and they're giving away Keuchel beards at today's game, too, so you got a lot of fans.
Oh, quick, one last thing. I know we went overboard, Chris, but one last thing. Speaking of James Harden and, not Harden, OKC, how well do you think Westbrook and Carmelo and Paul George are going to work out there?
I think they could end up doing well. I'm looking to
So
see.
do I.
I'm looking to see when the Avalanche opener is tonight because I know Ryan is a Colorado Avalanche fan, so I'm trying to see. Ooh, the Avalanche won their opener last night, 4-2 over the Rangers in New York. They got a road win in Madison Square Garden. So the Avalanche are 1-0 in the NHL, Ryan.
I'm really stoked about that. Hopefully we can continue to carry it over, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll find out which players scored in the box score really quick for you, because if it was that Duchesne, because I know the Avalanche is your team. My team, the Dallas Stars, begins play tonight. I know on Wednesday Connor McDavid had a hat trick. Duchesne, the guy that was being subject to trade rumors, he had 2 points in the win for the Avalanche. So, and Mikko Rantanen, the guy who was the 2015 first-round pick for the Colorado Avalanche, had a point in this game. This offense really took off. So, Colorado Avalanche looking strong early in the year.
You know, they really are, too. I could definitely see what you're talking about, especially, it's hard to believe that we were thinking about trading, how do you say his name?
Matt Duchesne.
Duchesne, yeah. I can't believe we're actually thinking about trading him, especially after all the controversy that was going on in that locker room, too.
I don't think they should trade him at all, but they're going to consider it if the team's out of contention. But if they're in contention, do they trade him or do they try to get... I don't think they're going to trade him unless they're out of contention by the...
You know, I don't think that they're going to be out of contention the way so far, and I mean, like you said, just one game and stuff, but, you know, if, I'm trying to figure out how to say his name, Varlamov?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he stopped 37 shots, so if he can keep playing like that, I mean, the Avalanche actually have, like, a decent chance, and as a hockey fan, it's going to be something fun to watch again.
Yeah, because they have a good defense with Eric Johnson and Tyson Barrie when healthy, but the problem is those guys got injured last year. They're not injured yet, so this team has a chance to do something, depending on what they do in these next few games. Colorado Avalanche, they've got to make Ryan feel better after what happened with the Rockies, and they play the New Jersey Devils with Nico Hischier on Saturday night, 12 p.m. Mountain Time. So 2 p.m. on Saturday, we get to see Nico Hischier versus the Avalanche in New Jersey. I wish that game was on television, on NHL Network or something. I wish they'd air that game on television, because I feel like that game is worthy of being aired on television, but the NHL knows their product is not going to get the ratings a college football game would get. But
All right.
But yeah, Nico, how do you think Nico's going to do versus the Avalanche on Saturday, Ryan?
I'm going to say that Nico gets 2 goals.
And the Avalanche win 3-2. Interesting. All right, so...
Hey, how did you know? Yeah.
It's just intuition, I guess. Thomas, do you want to do karaoke before you sign off? Ryan and I thought it'd be funny if you tried karaoke on the podcast.
I'd have to be drunk for that.
Okay. Joey has to be drunk for that, too.
Chris, I haven't closed in a while. Is it okay if I close?
Go ahead and close. You've earned it today, buddy.
As always, it's your fan favorite, Thomas Coburn, with our very friendly host, Chris Ransom, and our very special guest, Ryan Romero. You guys stay classy, San Diego, or wherever you might be. And as Cam Newton likes to say, it's funny about females liking routes. It's funny. Y'all have a good day now.
Was Thomas Coburn from the Draft Utopia podcast signing us off. And this is Chris Ransom from the Utopia of Sports. We're signing off.
Call recording has been completed.
Good show.